You are listening to episode 23 of the EU Startups podcast. Today with Grover CEO Michael Cassau, the Berlin-based unicorn founder who set out to transform the way people access and enjoy tech. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the EU Startups podcast. Today is February the 21st and we just opened the application phase for this year's Big Pitch competition, which finals will be held at our EU Startup Summit on May 12 and 13 in beautiful Barcelona. Early stage startups from across Europe can now apply, and the 15 finalists will eventually pitch on the main stage at this year's summit, in front of over 1,500 attendees, including about 350 investors. The winning startup will receive a prize package worth 90,000 euros. More information about this year's pitch competition and about our EU Startup Summit can be found on eu-startups.com. And now I'm handing over to my colleague Patricia to interview Grover founder Michael Cassau. Enjoy!
All right.
So today we are speaking to Michael Cassau, the CEO of pioneering subscription-based tech company Grover. And Michael's somewhat of a bit of a visionary entrepreneur, and I'm really delighted to introduce him to the EU Startups podcast today so that we can hear more of his story, some of his insights, and get some of those top tips. It's actually not Michael's first time speaking to us at EU Startups. He was a key speaker back at our summit in 2019, so it's great to have you back and to hear your insights again. So thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. You're really welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So Grover was founded in 2015. Can you tell us a bit more about Grover? Like, what are the core goals and values behind the company?
Sure. So look, I think what's really clear is that consumer tech spend is moving from the facultative to the required, or to put in more this consumer spend terms, from a discretionary at some point to really non-discretionary at this moment already, right? And it's just emphasizing this trend, right? So similar like you spend on food or housing, you have to spend on technology access. There's just no two ways about it, right? No computer, no podcast, no computer, no productivity, no work, and so forth. And I believe that there's a better way to access all the tech you need in your life that is superior to traditional buy now, pay later products, right? So we can keep you debt free, but also give you the benefit of, well, leverage, of not spending the money upfront to buy all this stuff, right? And we know that people like to pay later, people like to suit, their payments to their finances and so forth. But ultimately, with traditional debt products, which buy now pay later belongs to in a way as well, is you end up not only with the product, but also with all of the debt immediately. So Grover is here to offer a debt-free solution, where the leverage that you as a consumer experience is really tailored to your need, right? So you can decide how long do you want to commit to pay for something, at what price, and then actually you can stop paying and return the product. That's it, right? So it's a really tailored finance solution, if you will, that is superior to traditional debt, which is always the same, always linear, always pay me back the purchase price plus retail, and you can plus interest, and you can enjoy all the things you want even at the fraction of the price, right? You can say I need this only for 6 months, and I'm going to pay 20% only for this, right? So it's a superior leverage experience for our customers, a superior buy now pay later experience, if you will, without buying, just accessing and paying for things that you need in your life on a monthly subscription basis.
Awesome. Yeah, it's this very pioneering idea, especially now in this 21st century where we all want to have the latest tech and have so many different gadgets and tools. So it's very, very innovative story. And Grover's really been a European success story since it's been founded. And in 2018, you actually raised one of the biggest Series A rounds that year. And then in 2021, again, you secured another 847 million euros. So how's that growth been for you? Has it been like very daunting, or have you found it very kind of natural and organic for the company?
Well, first of all, it's exciting and fun. Okay, so that's the most. I think the what would be daunting for me would be every day the same and a boring job and so forth.
Yeah.
That would be really what would I couldn't do. But being an entrepreneur and having daily excitement, and thinking about things and being able to shape and structure your own destiny and the destiny of the company that you founded and so forth, and adapting to the changing environment every day and every quarter or every year even, I think is a really rewarding experience, and I just get pure joy out of it. If you look at the growth, obviously there are different years, different growth, right? So sometimes there's a lot of growth, but the company isn't ready. Then the company is getting more ready, and can shoulder that particular growth, next year, but then other construction sites pop up. So I think it's a really common experience for every entrepreneur, but also for every company building. It's also very different in a way, but typically you always have construction sites, they just tend to move around, and then you need to, think a few years ahead, right? And depending on how big you are, you need to think a little bit further ahead, and then, structure and plan accordingly, and then hire accordingly and make sure you develop the right things accordingly, right? But I think as you scale, you're able to also attract better and better talent, and with it, comes other people who can do, also the thinking, right? And then, you think together, you plan together, you build together, and this really becomes a great teamwork experience.
Perfect. It's like a holistic growing experience.
Absolutely.
And so could you give us some insights into how you financed Grover, and what would be your top tips to get funding for budding entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, so Grover has a two-way financing, right? The one is regular equity, like you experience it in every startup these days, Series A, B, C, this and that, right? And then the other part of our financing is all the asset-backed debt financing that Grover is raising in special purpose vehicles to finance all the access to all the tech products, right? So if you look at our relationship with the suppliers or the brands, for them, we act a little bit like a retailer, right? So we buy the stuff, it's in the SPVs and those special purpose vehicles, which are debt funded and so forth. So we raise two. And the big numbers that you read is always a lot of it is for the, inventory purchasing, right? So as you go from an inventory of 50 million to 300 million and so forth, you've got to have big debt facilities. So these are the two. I think on the equity side, what's important, it's really difficult to give any tips to anybody on the equity side because, I think investors and VCs are very unpredictable. One of the things, you can just launch a company in a hot market right now, right? Maybe another food delivery startup would take off, and we just raise funding because investors believe that's hot. But otherwise, if you're doing something that is unique, I think getting good investment on board early on, I think is important. Yeah, and if you're in Europe, look at the US rather sooner than later. I would say if your offering is international cross market, not just a European solution, provided that obviously your technology and your internal systems are ready for that. On the debt side, for us, it's portfolio financing really, and for that you need volume. So what investors on the debt side, I think, most looking at is volatility. How much volatility do you have? How stable are your numbers? That they don't much care about the specific metrics so long as they are stable, right? And so you need to show that stability and the predictability of the debt investment, and then you can raise that funding.
Cool. But so about so taking time to kind of really know your market and have some stability going on there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So it's hard to kind of talk about business growth in 2022 without mentioning the pandemic. How has the pandemic had an impact on Grover?
Well, the good news is that Grover can grow and has grown pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and after pandemic. right? So we've grown in 2019 2x, we've grown in 2020 2x with little spend, a near profitability or profitability on a cash flow basis as we reduced, growth spend, hyper growth in 2021. So as a business, we're really unaffected in a way. Everybody needs tech. As I said, you need to eat, you need to, pay your rent on your home or your mortgage, but you also need technology access. So I'm really happy that we can provide a service that gives people more flexible and more tailored access and leverage experience, if you will, to all the technology equipment that they need. Right. I think it would be probably a bad idea to go into debt in 2020 or 21 on the consumer side as you access all the tech things. So I think we can help people, and we've seen this also throughout the years. But for 2022, the motto internal is, okay, refresh yourself, leave the past behind, and really put it out there, right? Give it your full self. Tomorrowland 24/7. I'd like to say, right? I think it's time for people to really shake up things and move on and move forward and, be bold again.
Keep innovating and kind of move on from the past a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. Enough of the ifs and thens and all of that. It's time to move forward at full speed now, and 2022 is the year to leave the past behind, I think.
Absolutely. So speaking to that, then what do you see for 2022 for Grover and beyond?
Yeah, so what we do is, as a leadership team, we always get together, right? At the beginning of the year, I do an offsite, and I propose a few goals, like 3 core strategic goals. We discuss them, we nail them down, and we fine tune them. And our number one priority always is growth. So that's the number one. That's the number one. It's growth. Growth. Without growth, we don't need to exist, right? So growth, it's just about growth. That's number one. I mean, we're going from 200,000 subscribers to 200 million at some point, right? That's the journey we need to take every year, right? But number two, I think it's the time for Grover to really step up the customer experience for our customers. I mean, our NPS, Net Promoter Score, is relatively high at 70 today. That's great. But we want to push the needle here even further, right? How does a phenomenal Grover experience look like? What else do we need to do, right? So really want to professionalize the core of the business, both externally in terms of customer experience, speed, everything that the customer do, just the experience of Grover, but also internally, right? So I think we're hiring a few senior people now that fit well into the organization, establish more stable processes across the org as we now continue scaling and so forth. That needs to happen. And then and then on the third level, we will see. I think we have a few nascent opportunities that can take off much stronger and than the overall business, given that they're nascent today, right? So I think those will be the core areas for 2022 for us. So growth, much better customer experience, and a strong development of the nascent areas.
Awesome, that's exciting. And so, 2 kind of key trends that we're seeing at the minute in Europe is a move towards circular economy and a move towards greater sustainability in business practice. Now, it kind of does seem to me that these are values inwritten to Grover. So could you maybe speak a little bit more about this? How do you make sure that your company stays sustainable?
Yeah, I think this is a very important topic. And personally, I'm really, really happy that at Grover, we have no conflict of mission versus achieving any sustainability goals, right? Quite in the opposite. It's really nice that as we maximize our profitability and growth, it means recirculating the portfolio and the assets more and more often. It means only taking on products that don't depreciate fast, that you would need to dispose of quickly, or products that break quickly. It means repairing things, right? It's replacing spare parts, right? So our core business model is in the reduction of e-waste, in the extension of life cycles, in the difference to the traditional linear economy, if you think about it. And the linear economy, I think, comes with many detriments, both on the consumer side, as everybody's getting into debt. You buy things, you go into debt, then you don't use them, you still keep paying. This is consumer welfare loss right there. Like there's no market almost where there's so much consumer welfare loss as in financing. People end up paying for things that no longer have any value to them. And in addition to the consumer benefit through the recirculation of products, the extension of their life cycle, multiple times and so forth. We're reducing e-waste, and there are a few metrics that show that not only on the technology and e-waste side reduction, but also CO2 can be saved. But in order to professionalize all of that, we recently hired a head of sustainability. We now have a sustainability team at Grover, and they are focused. Yeah, and we're really focused on investing and identifying the core Grover benefits here, because our business model needs no greenwashing. We are at the core of the circular economy, and even in 2015, the World Economic Forum has reached out. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, has put and nominated Grover as the worldwide, globally leading top 100 circular economy companies in 2016, next to Apple, Philips, and who else is out there who really makes an effort. So from the beginning, we've been a player in the circular economy, and yeah, I think now I'm really happy that people are catching up to this, and I'm also quite happy about the fact that we can actually invest in a sustainability team and talk truth and reality about our business model rather than just claiming or greenwashing stuff, right? So I think that there are a couple of things that are coming together, and yeah, it's a great business model that gives obviously customers and consumers a big advantage, and it's kind of on the S side. If you look at the ESG, we're bridging the tech divide, increasing digital inclusion, if you will, as well, but also doing something that is environmentally beneficial.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic how the company really is pioneering in so many levels, and this sustainability one is really great. And so it's really great to hear that you're continuing to invest in that, and that it's also written from day one in the company. So over to you kind of personally. I'd be interested also to hear more about how you started the company. Did you always see yourself as a founder?
I think so, yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I don't, I think in a traditional work environment, it wouldn't be always easy for me, right? I would want to have the job of my superior immediately, and then, talk to the partner directly and so forth. And I mean, I did work at Goldman Sachs. I really enjoyed the experience and so forth, but I wanted, to jump queue quickly. Like, okay, why can I not be an MD here? Why do I need to, sit at this desk for 10 years, do the same until, and then no, because this is how it works, Michael, So I always wanted to be already there and so forth. That's one thing. But also, I think as a child, I, launched a few businesses. Also was an entrepreneur before studying for 2 years, also in the city, then decided to study, then work for Goldman and so forth. And I always see myself when, after 8 p.m. at Goldman, you get, free dinner. And my peers and friends, they would read the Financial Times, as they, get the dinner for 2 minutes. I would read TechCrunch. I was like, oh, what's going on here in the startup community? So I always had the itch, to do something. And I thought this is a much more exciting industry, and much more exciting things. People are actually building stuff and improving people's lives. So I decided to, check it out again, go to Rocket Internet for a year, and then, come back maybe. And as it turns out, in that summer where, I switched jobs from Goldman to Rocket and, from London to Berlin, I had that experience that middle in the summer, I needed to, invest in a lot of new stuff like furniture and new tech in Berlin and all the way, right? And I thought that experience, especially compared to like a long weekend in Rome, where, you spend 500 euros and you have an experience of a lifetime. And then suddenly you're in Berlin, you need to equip yourself for a year. You need to spend suddenly 4,000, 3,000 euros or whatnot. And the only alternative to the high spend was debt and the financing for 3 years that, I would then need to repay once I'm back in London. I thought, man, this experience is really bad from a consumer side. Like, I'm not being offered the choice which I want, which is I don't want to pay up front. I also don't want to commit for 3 or 4 years. I just want this stuff on a monthly basis, for as long as I need it. And then somebody else, please pick it up, right? And I'm an economist by training. And then immediately I thought, okay, this is really efficient. That would be much more efficient because my marginal utility is high at the beginning on the product. It wanes over time. And if I could stop paying as the marginal utility and the marginal cost, that these curves cross each other, that would be really beneficial. So this thought never left me afterwards, right? So, I quit Rocket after 5 months. launched a few, the same startup in a few markets, and started Grover then in 2015 immediately.
Interesting. Wow. So it's been quite a story, and it's always been that like itch within you to start a company. So what would you say has been your proudest moment in the Grover story until now?
Proudest moment?
Yeah.
Proudest moment. I think, honestly, one of the proudest moments I had was last week on the Friday. We had, I think, our large, and we do team updates every Friday and on Zoom and so forth. And we had the most promotions that Friday, I think. So many people were promoted. People were doing great, and then experiencing the benefit of their work, of their passion, of their commitment, and so forth. And I was like, I can do this all day. This is phenomenal. So I was really proud of people, or I am really proud when people make progress at Grover, when they like what they do, when we provide the right environment for their fast growth. I think this is I think what makes me most proud is when people can progress fast and see the fruit and the benefits of their hard work, commitment, and intelligence relatively quickly at Grover. I think this is critical. And yeah, that makes me really proud.
That's awesome. So it's really, really kind of supportive environment to work in as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, on the one side, right? On the other side, the expectations are high too. So you gotta self-select. If you want to take it easy, this is probably not the place for you. But if you're great, you're good, you're committed, it doesn't matter whether you're a working student disagreeing with a VP, you just move on. And we had many of these instances where just a better argument, a better thoughtful argumentation and idea win, and then the execution matters. And yeah, I think that's what's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Very cool. So going back to your 20-year-old self, would there be any advice that you would like to give yourself?
It's a good question. No, I don't think so. I wouldn't give myself any advice at this point. Maybe, chill out a little, it's because I was studying two different subjects, economics and law, and but I thought the experience was great because I did the partying beforehand, and I thought the experience was also phenomenal. So I don't think if I were to give myself that advice, it's going to be great. Just don't work so hard, whatever. I wouldn't have the same experience again, and so no, I wouldn't. I would say no, just go for it and do it. You're gonna figure this out.
Just go for it, and you'll figure it out on the way. I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. It's been great to hear from you, and yeah, we'll keep in touch and hear from you again soon, I'm sure.
Cheers. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.